The shuttle doors hissed open and Commander Chen stepped into a silence so absolute it felt like stepping into vacuum. The Verithan Queen stood alone in the center of the diplomatic chamber, her crystalline form refracting the station's cold light into fractured rainbows across the walls. No guards. No attendants. No delegation. Behind Chen, Ambassador Kowalski's hand gripped his shoulder hard enough to bruise. "This is a trap," Kowalski whispered. "It has to be." Chen didn't respond. He was watching the Queen's secondary arms, the ones that folded against her thorax, in what the xenolinguists claimed was a gesture of vulnerability. The Verithan Empire controlled 47 star systems. Their warships could glass a planet in hours. 3 months ago, they'd sent a single transmission to Earth. The Queen seeks a partner. No terms. No conditions. Send one who believes. Every government on Earth had called it a prelude to invasion, a psychological weapon. A test before the extermination began. Chen had read the message differently. "Commander," Kowalski hissed. Protocol ended when she dismissed her own people," Chen said quietly. He stepped forward, boots clicking on the smooth floor, and the ambassador's hand fell away. The Queen's head tilted, compound eyes catching the light like 1,000 tiny mirrors. She stood 8 feet tall, her exoskeleton the color of deep water, and when she moved it was with the careful deliberation of something ancient and powerful choosing restraint. "You came," she said. Her voice resonated from the translation implant, but underneath it Chen heard the chittering harmonics of her actual speech, alien and oddly musical. "I did," Chen said. "The others do not believe." It wasn't a question. "No, but you do." Chen stopped 3 meters away, close enough that he could see the fine tracery of patterns etched into her carapace, far enough that she wouldn't feel crowded. He'd spent 6 weeks studying every scrap of Verathan culture humanity had gathered, looking for the truth beneath the fear. "I believe you're exhausted," he said. The Queen went perfectly still. Behind Chen, he heard Kowalski's sharp intake of breath, the rustle of security personnel shifting to ready positions by the door. The station's recycled air hummed through hidden vents. "Explain," the Queen said, and her secondary arms unfolded slightly. "Your empire is fracturing. You've held 47 worlds together for 600 years, but your people are different species, different cultures, different evolutionary paths. The Verithan were conquerors once, but you've been administrators for centuries, diplomats, and now the outer systems are pulling away because they think you've gone soft." Chen kept his voice level, factual, the way he'd speak to a colleague reviewing intelligence data. "You need a partner who understands the weight of holding things together. Someone from a species young enough to still believe in impossible solutions, old enough to know what compromise costs." The Queen's head lowered slightly, a gesture the cultural database had labeled as contemplation or grief. "The Council believes you are weak," she said. "They believe I make this offer from desperation, that I will accept any mate who strengthens my political position. Are they wrong? They are correct, in every way except the one that matters." The Queen's voice carried something that might have been amusement or sorrow, impossible to tell through the translation. "I am desperate, Commander Chen. My people fracture. The outer worlds prepare for war. My own court plots against me. But I will not choose a partner who sees me as a prize to be won, a weakness to exploit, or a problem to solve." She moved closer, and Chen held his ground, though every instinct screamed at him to step back from a creature who could tear him apart without effort. "I sent my message to 43 species," the Queen said. "All sent politicians, generals. Princes seeking alliance through marriage. You are the only one who sent a soldier with kind eyes who reads cultural briefings until he understands what is not being said." "I'm not here to save you," Chen said carefully. "You are here because you believe I mean exactly what I said. No demands. No conditions, only truth." The Queen's primary arm spread slightly, a gesture that left her center mass exposed, vulnerable. "I am tired, Commander Chen. Tired of court games and political maneuvering. Tired of being seen as a symbol instead of a person. I want someone who will stand beside me not because of what I can give them, but because they choose to." "That's not how diplomatic marriages work," Chen said. "I know. That is why I ask for a partner, not a marriage." "That is why I demanded belief instead of negotiation." The Queen's eyes seemed to focus on him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. "Do you know what your superiors expect from this meeting? They expect me to gather intelligence. Stall. Find the real angle. And if there is no angle? If I am simply a person asking another person for companionship in the face of impossible odds? Chen studied her, this alien queen who'd stripped away every protection to stand alone in a room with potential enemies, and made a decision that would probably end his career. Then I'd say you picked the wrong human. I'm just a soldier who happened to believe your message. No, the queen said softly. You are exactly right, because you were the only one who answered the real question. She extended one primary arm, palm up, in a gesture that transcended species. I am She-Ra. I am afraid. I am alone. Will you help me? Chen looked at the offered hand, at the alien queen who'd gambled everything on honesty, and heard Kowalski moving behind him, probably reaching for a weapon or a comm link. He took her hand. The moment their skin touched, alarms shrieked through the station and the doors burst open. Kowalski shouted something about contamination protocols. Security flooded in, weapons raised. But Chen didn't let go, and neither did She-Ra. And in that moment of absolute chaos, he saw something flicker across her alien features that he recognized completely. Relief. Commander Chen, step away from the Xeno, Kowalski ordered, his voice tight with controlled panic. No, sir, Chen said calmly. That's a direct order. I know, sir. The security team fanned out, rifles trained on the queen, and Chen felt her hand tighten around his. She wasn't trembling, her physiology probably didn't allow for that. But he could sense the tension in her grip, the desperate hope that she hadn't miscalculated. Everyone lower your weapons, Chen said, his voice carrying the command authority he'd earned in a dozen combat zones. The queen is under my protection. You don't have the authority, Kowalski started. Section 7 of the First Contact Protocols, Chen interrupted. In situations where direct communication with an alien entity establishes mutual understanding and trust, the ranking field officer may assume protective custody to prevent diplomatic incidents. You made me ranking field officer when you sent me in here alone, Ambassador. This is me exercising that authority. It was a desperate gamble, citing a regulation that had never actually been tested, but Chen had spent those 6 weeks reading more than just cultural briefings. Kowalski's face went through several shades of red. We don't know what she wants. We don't know what touching her does to human physiology. She wants exactly what she said she wants, Chen said quietly. Someone who believes her. And right now, your security team is proving why she came to us instead of the species who would have killed her for this vulnerability. The queen spoke then, her voice resonating through the chamber with a harmonics that made the walls hum. Commander Chen is correct. If he releases my hand now, if your species proves as treacherous as the others, then the Verithan Armada in orbit around your moon will interpret this as an act of war. We will all die within the hour. The room went deathly silent. You're bluffing, Kowalski said, but his voice shook. She's not, Chen said, still meeting the queen's compound eyes. But it doesn't matter, because I'm not letting go. He turned his head slightly to address the ambassador without breaking contact with She-Ra. Sir, I need you to trust me. Just this once. Everything she said is true. Everything she's offering is real. We can either be the species that responds to honesty with betrayal, or we can be the one that takes the leap, a small figure pushed through the security team. Doc. Sarah Martinez, the xenobiologist who'd briefed Chen before the mission. She stared at the joined hands, her scanner already out and running. His vitals are stable, she said, wonder creeping into her professional tone. More than stable. Commander, how do you feel? Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, Chen said, and realized with a start that it was true. The exhaustion he'd carried since Earth, the weight of being chosen for a mission nobody believed in, the loneliness of being the only one willing to hope, all of it had lifted the moment he'd taken She-Ra's hand. The Verithan share emotion through physical contact, Martinez breathed. The cultural files mentioned it, but we thought it was metaphorical. Commander, you're literally feeling what she feels. I know, Chen said. And he did. He could sense She-Ra's fear, her desperate loneliness, the crushing weight of an empire she'd held together through sheer will for decades. He could feel her hope, too, fragile and precious, the tiny flame she'd protected through the long journey to Earth, through the dismissal of 42 other species, through the gamble of stripping away every defense to stand alone in this room. She's telling the truth, he said, about everything. Kowalski lowered his weapon slowly. Even about the Armada? She-Ra's voice carried a note of dark amusement. Especially about the Armada, my council insisted. They believe I am mad to trust aliens, that I will be captured or killed. The fleet commander has orders to fire if I signal distress. And if we'd attacked you? Martinez asked. Then I would have died proving that trust is impossible, and your species would have followed moments later. The Queen's secondary arms spread in what might have been a shrug. I told you I was desperate, Commander. I did not say I was helpless. Chen felt hysterical laughter building in his chest and suppressed it. You bet both our civilizations on me holding your hand. Yes. That's completely insane. Yes. Shearer's grip shifted slightly, her alien fingers interlacing with his in a gesture that shouldn't have felt natural but somehow did. But you are still here. You have not released me even when threatened by your own people. You believe. I believe you're absolutely terrifying and possibly unhinged, Chen said. And yet I'm not letting go. The Queen made a sound that the translator couldn't parse, but through their contact, Chen understood it perfectly. It was laughter, rich and genuine, the first real joy she'd felt in years. Then we have a beginning, Shiera said. Everything else we will build together. Kowalski holstered his weapon, shoulders sagging. This is going to create a diplomatic nightmare. This is going to change everything, Martinez countered, her scanner still recording. Ambassador, if what I'm seeing is real, if they can share emotions through contact, do you understand what that means for interspecies cooperation, for communication, for trust? Chen understood something else, something he could feel through Shiera's touch but couldn't quite put into words. The Queen hadn't just come looking for a partner to help hold her empire together. She'd come looking for proof that connection was possible across the vast gulf of evolution and culture. She'd come looking for hope, and somehow, impossibly, she'd found it in a human soldier who'd read between the lines of a message everyone else had dismissed as a threat. What happens now? Chen asked quietly. Shiera's compound eyes seemed to soften, or maybe he was just learning to read her expressions through the emotional resonance flowing between them. Now you meet my court. Now we face the fracturing together. Now we prove that different species can stand as equals, instead of conquerors and conquered. She paused. And now you learn why I truly needed someone who believes in impossible solutions. How bad is it? The outer systems are 27 hours from declaring independence. My primary rival on the council has been poisoning me slowly for 6 months. And there is a human child in your delegation who is about to cause a catastrophic diplomatic incident. Chen blinked. What? An explosion of sound came from the corridor outside. Childish laughter, adult shouting, the heavy thud of something large hitting a wall. The security team spun toward the door as it burst open and a small figure came tumbling through, pursued by 3 frantic-looking staffers. A girl, maybe 7 years old, with dark hair and bright eyes, wearing what looked like a junior diplomat's uniform 3 sizes too big. She rolled to her feet and froze when she saw the Queen, her mouth forming a perfect O of wonder. You're beautiful, the child breathed. Shiera went very still. Through their joined hands, Chen felt a spike of something complex. Surprise, fear, and a desperate yearning he didn't fully understand. Ambassador, Chen said carefully, not taking his eyes off the girl. Who is this? Kowalski's face had gone pale. That's Maya. She was a stowaway. We found her in the cargo bay 3 hours ago. We were trying to keep her contained until after the meeting. I wanted to see the alien queen, Maya said defiantly, taking a step forward despite the staffers trying to grab her. Everyone kept saying she was scary, but I knew they were wrong. I knew she'd be amazing. Shiera's hand trembled in Chen's grip. A child, she whispered. You brought a child. We didn't mean to, Kowalski started.
No, you do not understand.
The Queen's voice carried an edge of something wild, almost broken. The Vrethan cannot lie to children. It is biologically impossible. Our young can sense deception through pheromones we cannot control. For 600 years, every treaty, every alliance, every word I have spoken has been truth, because one Verithan child can destroy a lie simply by being present. She looked down at Maya, compound eyes reflecting the girl's face 1,000 times. And now you have brought me a human child who believes I am beautiful. Who thinks I am amazing? Through their contact, Chen felt the full weight of what that meant to her. Centuries of being seen as a monster, a conqueror, a political symbol. And this small human had looked at her alien form and seen beauty. Maya took another step closer, ignoring the adult's protests. Are you sad? You look like you're sad. I am, Shiera said, her voice barely a whisper. But perhaps less than I was. The girl reached out one small hand toward the Queen's free primary arm. My mom says holding hands helps when you're sad. Is that why you're holding the commander's hand? Chen made a decision in that instant that sealed both their fates. Maya, this is Queen Shiera. She's my friend. Would you like to hold her other hand? Every adult in the room started talking at once, but Shiera was already extending her arm, lowering herself to the child's height with infinite care. Maya took the offered hand without hesitation, and the queen made a sound that needed no translation. She was crying. The council will never forgive this, Shiera said, but she was smiling through the tears, a human child touching the queen. Believing without question. They will call it manipulation, claim I have been compromised by alien influence. Then we deal with your council? Chen said. Together. Maya squeezed Shiera's hand. Don't worry. The commander's really good at fixing things. He once helped me find my cat when everyone else said it was lost forever. If he's your friend, everything will be okay. Kowalski slumped against the wall, all the fight gone out of him. We're all going to be court-martialed. Probably, Martinez agreed cheerfully, still recording. But we're also witnessing the most important first contact in human history, so I'd say it's worth it. Shiera stood slowly, still holding both Chen and Maya's hands, and for the first time since he had entered the chamber, Chen saw her as she must have been before the weight of empire crushed her, regal, powerful, and desperately, achingly alive. Commander Chen, she said formally, I accept your partnership. Not as a political alliance, not as a strategic marriage, but as what it was always meant to be. Two people choosing to stand together against impossible odds. I accept, Chen said, and meant it with every fiber of his being. And you, small Maya, who sees beauty where others see fear, the queen continued, would you be our witness? When the council questions my choice, when they demand proof that trust between species is possible, will you tell them that you touched the alien queen and felt only wonder? Maya nodded solemnly. I'll tell everyone. You're not scary at all. You're just lonely. I was, Shiera said softly. But perhaps I will not be anymore. The alarms had stopped shrieking. The security team had lowered their weapons. And in the center of the diplomatic chamber, three beings from different worlds stood hand in hand, while the future pivoted around them like a star being born. Chen felt the weight of what they'd started, the impossible task of bridging not just two species but entire civilizations built on fundamentally different principles. He felt the danger waiting in the shadows. Shiera's poisoner, the fracturing empire, the human politicians who would see this as either disaster or opportunity. But he also felt the queen's relief, Maya's uncomplicated joy, and his own stubborn belief that sometimes the impossible was just possibility waiting for someone brave enough or foolish enough to reach for it. My counsel can go molt, Shiera said, and Chen felt her fierce satisfaction through their joined hands. For 600 years I have done what was expected, what was proper, what was politically advantageous. I have sacrificed everything to hold the empire together, and now I choose this. Truth instead of strategy, connection instead of isolation, hope instead of endless compromise. Even if it costs you everything? Especially then. Because what is an empire worth if it requires me to die alone? The queen's secondary arms gestured around the chamber. This moment, Commander, this is what I truly ask for in my message. Not a solution to my political problems, not a weapon against my enemies, just someone willing to hold my hand and believe that I meant what I said. Maya tugged on Shiera's arm. Are you going to marry the commander? My friend Kenji's parents got married and there was cake. Verathan do not marry in the human sense, Shiera said gently. But we do bond, and bonding is far more permanent than any ceremony. Chen's heart did something complicated in his chest. We should probably discuss that before. Are you afraid, Commander? The queen's tone was teasing, almost playful, and through their contact he felt her testing him, curious to see if he understood what he'd signed up for. Terrified, he admitted, but I was terrified when I walked in here, and I did it anyway. Then we are well matched. I too am terrified. Of failure. Of trust. Of allowing someone close enough to hurt me. Shiera's grip tightened. But I am more terrified of continuing alone. Maya looked between them. You're both really weird, but I think you'll be good together. Martinez laughed, a slightly hysterical sound that broke the tension. From the mouths of babes. Ambassador, we need to contact Earth. They need to know what's happening here before the rumor mill starts spinning. Kowalski pushed himself off the wall. They're going to want him recalled immediately. They'll claim he's been compromised. He has been, Shiera said matter-of-factly. I have shared my emotional state with him. He now knows my fears, my hopes, my desperation. He is compromised in every political sense. But he is also the first being in 600 years to touch me and feel truth instead of calculation. She turned to Kowalski. Tell your leaders this. Commander Chen stands under my protection. Any attempt to remove him will be considered an act of war. Not because I need him as a political tool, but because he is mine and I do not surrender what is mine. That's going to sound like a threat, Kowalski said weakly. It is a promise. There is a difference. The Queen's voice carried absolute certainty. And now we have work to do. My empire fractures in 26 hours. Commander Chen, you said you were a soldier who believed in impossible solutions. Prove it. Chen looked at their joined hands, at Maya still holding on with childish determination, at the assembled humans watching with expressions ranging from horror to fascination. He thought about the Varathan Armada in orbit, the Council plotting against their queen, the outer systems on the brink of war. He thought about every impossible mission he'd ever accepted, every time he'd walked into danger because someone had to and everyone else was too smart to volunteer. And he thought about the alien queen who'd stripped away every defense, gambled both their civilizations on honesty, and chosen to believe that connection was possible even when everything in her experience screamed otherwise. All right, he said. Let's save an empire. Shiera's laughter resonated through the chamber like music. And that, Commander Chen, is exactly why you are the only one who could have answered my call. You do not question the impossible. You simply decide how to accomplish it. I question everything, Chen corrected. I just don't let the question stop me from acting. We have a fleet commander to convince, a council to face, and a child to return to her frantic parents before they assume the worst. The Queen released Maya's hand with obvious reluctance. Small one. I will see you again. This I promise. Maya beamed. Okay. Can I tell Kenji about you? He won't believe I got to meet an alien queen. Tell everyone, Shiera said. Tell them the Queen is not a monster. Tell them she is simply tired and lonely and hoping for kindness. Perhaps if enough children believe it, the adults will too. The staffers gathered Maya up, already talking frantically into communicators about security breaches and protocols, but the girl waved over their shoulders until she disappeared into the corridor. Chen turned to Kowalski. I need a secure channel to Earth and access to the Varathan Fleet Command, in that order. You can't seriously think you can negotiate. I don't negotiate, I tell the truth. Chen looked at Shiera. That's the secret, isn't it? That's what you've been waiting for. Not someone clever enough to navigate the politics, but someone too stubborn to play the game at all. In part, the Queen agreed. But also someone kind enough to see that the game itself is the problem. My people have forgotten how to trust because trust has become a weakness to exploit. Yours have never learned to trust because you see the universe as hostile. But a child can hold my hand and feel only wonder, and a soldier can read my message and believe I meant it. Children and fools, Martinez murmured. The only ones who haven't learned to lie. No, Shiera corrected. The only ones who remember that truth is stronger than any deception if you are brave enough to risk it. Chen felt the weight of those words, the challenge implicit in them. The Queen wasn't asking him to be clever. She was asking him to be honest in a situation where honesty could get them both killed, to stand in front of her council, her enemies, the fracturing empire, and say with complete conviction, this is real, this matters, and it's worth fighting for. He'd been trained for 1,000 different scenarios. Infiltration, extraction, combat, negotiation. Deception when necessary, intimidation when possible, violence as a last resort. But nobody had trained him for this, for standing hand in hand with an alien queen and choosing radical honesty as a weapon. How do we start? He asked. Shiera's compounded eyes reflected his face 1,000 times, each tiny image showing a different aspect of his expression. We start by contacting my fleet commander and telling him to stand down. Then we contact your superiors and tell them to do the same. Then we return to my throne world and face the council together. She paused. And then, Commander Chen, we discover if belief alone is enough to change the course of history. And if it isn't, then we will die having tried, which is more than most can say. The Queen's secondary arms folded against her thorax again, that gesture of vulnerability that had first caught Chen's attention. But I do not think we will fail. I have seen your people through your eyes now, felt your stubborn hope, your refusal to accept that some things are impossible, and you have felt my people through mine, our exhaustion, our desperation, our desperate need for something beyond the endless cycle of conquest and control. She pulled him closer, until he could see his reflection in each facet of her eyes. We are what both our species need, she said. Proof that the universe is larger than our fears. Now we simply have to convince everyone else. Chen smiled despite himself. Just that, huh? Just that. Simple. Impossible. Perfect for a soldier who believes in messages everyone else calls lies. Shira turned to Kowalski. Ambassador, open your channels. Let us begin the most honest negotiation in the history of either our species. And surrounded by nervous humans and empty protocol, the queen of the Verithan Empire and a human commander who'd been foolish enough to believe her faced the impossible together, hand in hand, while the future held its breath and waited to see what truth could accomplish where lies had always failed.